to the podcast, Tyla. I'm so happy to have you on here today.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
Yeah, so I'm excited to get started with this conversation with you. I hope everybody is listening in so that you can get some tips about how to be empowering in your community. And Tyla will be talking to us a little bit about that, but then mainly just about who she is and what she does. Speaking of that, Tyla, talk to us a little bit about who you are. I know that you are a storyteller, visual storyteller, and a content creator. Do you wear any other hats?
Honestly, I'm just, a little bit of everywhere. And I think that's a little bit of a superpower sometimes, So I'm an editor, a cinematographer, director, producer. I've worn many hats in the creative realm, but all in all, I'm just a creative who loves telling stories of the African American community, and a storyteller, like you said.
Yeah, I feel like everybody that we've had on here is like, yeah, they might do one thing, but then it's like it's connected to so many other pieces of art. And I think when you're a storyteller, like that's just how it goes. I feel like even with myself, I started out writing stories and then it moved to poetry, spoken word, and now I'm into like film as well. I feel like when you tell stories like that, it's like not unheard of to branch out into other skills and abilities. So I want to know, even though you're saying you've been wearing plenty of hats and kind of been engaged in a lot of things. When you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Man, when I was a child, I wanted to be many, many things. I started out, I was going to be a hairstylist. Every time somebody would come over to my parents' house, I was doing braids, I was flat ironing, curling, pin curls, roller sets, whatever you needed, I had. So I wanted to be a hairstylist when I was younger. That grew into wanting to be a chef, and like transitioning, it's two totally different things, but transitioning to wanting to be a chef and cook. After that, I think I wanted to be an architect. And then once I got into high school, I got into like the whole medical field and, that type of thing. So I wanted to be a doctor. Like I wanted to work in a hospital, I wanted to heal people. And eventually that, it stuck. But once I got to college, I realized, okay, all of these things have something in common. What is it? And it kind of turned me to wanting to use storytelling and film to heal people. So, it's kind of one long thread of everything that I was fascinated with was the process of how things worked and why. So I kind of use that to kind of get to where I'm at now.
I love how you said all of those things turned into one thing, which was healing. Because I was in my head, I was like, dang, she all over the spectrum of what she wants to do creatively. But I love how you said when you really sat down and thought about it, you wanted to help other people. And I can see how you could still do that in film. So when you were a child and you wanted to be all of those things, you know how children are really optimistic, imaginative, which is probably why you were like, I want to do that, I want to do that, because we just have so much confidence in ourselves when we're kids. Our characteristics as children is just it's like basically fearless most of the time. Do you feel like you have that fearlessness now as an adult, or which characteristics do you wish you still had that you had when you were a child?
Yeah, so I definitely think I still hold true a lot of those aspects now, but I can't say that it stayed here since I was a child. I think it was something that I had to rediscover along the way. So when it came to that point of me making that switch of, okay, do I want to be in the medical field or do I want to do something different and kind of tap to the creativity side of things? I think it kind of transitioned then. Because I had to go from as a yes or a no kind of answer to kind of flushing that out to being a little bit more, okay, so this is more about how do you feel about this? How does this make other people feel? So I definitely, it was something that I had to learn again, and something I kind of had to tap into my inner child. But it was always there, it was always there. And I think for a lot of us, that's how it can be, is we know there's something deep down in there. It's just pulling it out of yourself, and challenging yourself to do those things. So I definitely, had to learn it again, how to be, free-willed, and how to think of things more in an abstract way, more than just of a yes or no. So that imaginativeness, now helps me as a filmmaker, because every day you're creating something that was not there before. It didn't exist, a world that didn't exist, a character that didn't exist. So using that now, even when I'm at the grocery store, I'm always thinking, which is something that, again, I had to kind of teach myself to do more, was if I'm at a grocery store and I hear or see a unique conversation happening, I'll walk away being like, I wonder what their story is. And, I'll start thinking about, like, where did they come from that would make them say something like that? So getting deeper into those things and just using the things around me to help kind of build and shape my imaginativeness, since then, I think it's helped me a lot as a filmmaker and generally as a creative and as a human being, to be able to empathize with people and just feel what they feel.
Yeah, I love that you said you had to stop thinking black and white, like yes and no, and more abstract. Because I feel like as a child, we are very much like hover your hand over the stove to see, you know what I'm saying? What, and I think as you grow older, you still need that skill. Like you can study all you want, go to all the film schools and all of that, but it isn't until you're on set hovering your hand over the stove a little bit to kind of see how it is, and making those mistakes and just like engaging in that realm that you kind of get that childlike fearlessness back. And you talked a little bit about just kind of being in a grocery store, hearing people and kind of coming up with storytelling ideas and stuff like that. When you're around other creatives and it's an opportunity to collab, and you're listening to their stories and their ideas, how do you know that you want to do a project? Like, how do you know, like, that's the one I'm going to collaborate on? I really feel passionate about this story. How do you know who to work with?
That's a great question. And again, a skill that I had to develop, because at first I was taking everything. I would take no matter what it was, who it was with. And because of that, it was great for the opportunities, but I found myself being exhausted, and not necessarily in the sense of physically tired, but mentally and emotionally drained, because I wasn't committed to something or a project that I truly believed in. So some things that I look for in a project, for example, is really just a message. I think even if somebody's doing a story on sports and I, necessarily am not into, I'm not really into sports like that, but there's a common thread in everything and everybody that we can relate to. We can all relate, or most of us can relate to having somebody who sees us, and is proud of us after a very long journey of having to go through a lot of things, of practicing for something, of working for something, whether that be your mom, your uncle, your grandma, your dog, whoever. We all have that common thread. So what I look for when I say yes to a project is, does it have a common thread that can tie everybody together, even if they don't understand the subject? So that's one thing. Another thing is just passion. I like working around people who are just as passionate as me. And I think that's when I don't get as tired during the project, because it's always just back and forth and it's exciting, and we can uplift each other. You know what I'm saying? Even if the story or the person who I'm working with has never done a short film before, has never done a video before, if you have the passion to do it, and our passion matches and our vision matches, then I'm like, let's do it. I don't care if we shoot it on an iPhone. Like the passion is there, the story is there. So I think it's something, again, a skill that I had to learn, was learning when to say no, and learning which projects will not exhaust me, through the way of, am I going to be in a place where I feel respected, where the cast and crew or whoever we're working with, that they feel respected as well, and that their ideas are coming to fruition, and that we can all get together and make a vision that is somehow going to help somebody else.
I do get the sense that a collaborative project is like a mini family for a short period of time, and maybe even longer if you keep those connections. But even when we talk on the Power and Community podcast, that's something that we try to like drive home to our students. Like when you're telling stories, it is about pulling back from that community, coming together and really trying to tell the stories of what's happening, so that we can empower the people in those communities. And you kind of can't do that if your crew is not like on board with that community or the story that needs to be told. You all have to have that passion. I can see where it could get exhaustive if like don't nobody really care, or people are not willing to push through, like dang, we missed lunch, but we really got to get these scenes done before the sun go down, so let's just push through and then we'll, you know what I'm saying, we'll regroup tomorrow, or whatever the issue may be. If a person isn't as passionate, how then do we tell this story to help this community? I feel like it shows through the film. When the people sit down and watch it, they can tell how the cast and crew and everybody work together. You can really feel when a film is a passion project for people. Like you can feel it through the narratives that you watch. I have another question for you. So even though like you have an idea now about like which projects to take, if it's like which ones work for your mental health and things like that, which things don't tire you out, which things are passion projects, what's the most difficult project you've ever had to work on? So short story time with Tyla Barnes. What's the most difficult project? Why was it difficult? And then how did you push through on it?
So I would say my most difficult project, not necessarily because of the exhaustion of it, but because it was so large in scale compared to anything else I've done, is my first short film, which will be coming out soon. So currently still in the process, but I think this has been my most challenging project simply because, like I said, the scope of it. Creating a short film, I never created a narrative before. Most of the things I did was promo videos or like music videos, things that I didn't necessarily have to have a script for, that, you could overlay music, cut it, real nice, add effects, some stuff like that. So I think this project has been a little bit more challenging because I had to stretch myself in a way that I've never had to stretch like my mind and my creativity before. And at first it was very daunting, but one thing I had to learn was don't look at the end or the bigger picture necessarily right now, because it can get scary to think, how am I going to get there? And I'm all the way back here. If you just look one step ahead, okay, I need to write a script. Let me write 2 pages tomorrow. That's it. Don't worry about what happens next week, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, because it creates like an anxiety of things and possibilities and things that may not necessarily happen, that, you kind of work yourself up over, or at least that I did. I was scared. I was like, how is the story going to make sense? And I'm like, well, how is it going to not make sense? If you haven't even written a page yet, you have to start somewhere. So I think after I got over that and learning to just take it step by step and breaking it up and not look at the whole bigger thing or the whole bigger picture necessarily right now, and just take it step by step, even if I didn't know what that next step was, it helped me create a very healthy balance for creating this piece. I worked on a set with over 40 people, and I've never worked on a set that was my set with more than like 8, so it was challenging in that way, but I would just say take it step by step, and that's how I kind of accomplished that, was step by step, day by day, moment by moment, page by page, take it one at a time. And those, each time you do that, will build up to be a full project, but you just have to take that first step.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. I feel like for me, one of the projects I'm working on is a novel right now, and I've been working on the outline for like 2 months, and I'm still not where I want to be on the outline, but my deadline to start writing is November 1st. And I was like, oh, should I start or should I finish the outline? But even in listening to you, I feel very encouraged, because it's like, well, girl, you got most of it outlined, just start. And then it's a manuscript, so it changes as you edit, and you know what I'm saying, you do all of these things. Sometimes it changes right on set. Sometimes, I mean, not a book necessarily what I'm writing, but like you have time to go back and say, I don't want that, or I do want this. But if you don't start, then nobody will get to see the story. You know what I mean? And so it is important to continue to push through. I want to know on your set, like, so the role you played, was it cinematography and writing? Like what was the whole like extent of your role on set? for your film?
Writer and director.
Okay, so you did directing. So people were really looking to you then.
Yes, yes, and it was scary, and I had to know that too. I was like, "Wait, you guys are waiting on me? Okay, like that's what we're waiting on. Let me go ahead and tell y'all what we doing. All 40 of y'all, you know." So that was it was different to have that I'm not going to say power, but at the same time, that position where everyone, you know, where you lead that much. But I saw it as an opportunity. I was like, this is an opportunity to make everybody on the set feel comfortable in a way that I haven't even felt comfortable on sets before. It was filled with a lot of, you know, I had a lot of Black women as cast members in the crew. So, you know, trying to make sure when I did create my crew list that I'm creating a crew and a cast that reflects the world that I come from. So, you know, even starting from there, once again, that was a step-by-step thing. Just take it one day at a time. Let me find a Black woman who does COVID. Let me find a Black woman who works a camera, you know, so building that up step by step. But it was scary. It was daunting, but we got it done. So
So if you had to, for somebody listening in, maybe they're working on their first short film, it might only be a 20-minute, I don't know, joint or anything. And they have a small crew of neighborhood friends, maybe listen, you know, a cousin holding an iPhone or whatever. But people, this is, I mean, this is real, right? This is what happens when you first start doing these things. What advice would you give to them about staying focused and staying calm when people are looking to you for the creative vision for a project? Like, what are some very practical things that you might have done when you woke up every day before set? They could be internal, or maybe you talk to somebody special who encourages you. What did you do?
So there's a few things that I did. I'm a prayer. I always pray before everything that I walk into. So that kept me calm. Between that and meditation, you know, I do that every day. So that is my own personal way of kind of calming myself down and reassuring myself that I can do this. So I haven't been in that space before. So that was one thing that I did. The second thing that I did, and honestly, once again, I'd probably just learned this not too long ago, but I had to learn who I took advice from during that process, because when you ask everybody, what do you think? What do you think? It strays away from your idea and it destroys your intuition and what you know that you want. So it's being careful and knowing who to listen to and when to listen to them. So that was something that kept the anxiety away, because I trusted myself enough to know, hey, 500 people can tell me this, but this is exactly what I want. And I know why I want it because of this reason. And knowing that and walking into there with that, you know, being able to instill that confidence in myself. So I did that, you know, I walked in there with a very clear vision. And I think as a director, that is so important, is to have an opinion about everything, have an opinion about what color the cup is on the counter, even if we don't see it, have an opinion about the curtains, the tiles, have an opinion about everything. And because I had created those opinions and what I wanted before, even if it wasn't necessarily something that we saw, but was a part of the world that we created, I created my opinion. So when somebody asks me, I can tell them what it was and why once I got there, in addition to being able to have a clear vision of when I saw something that maybe didn't fit, being able to say, this doesn't fit because of this. Or, you know, the story, the character, she's been through this in her life, so she wouldn't have that in her room. You know, certain things like that. So I think just walking in with a clear vision and meditating, run the story back in your head as many times as you need to, the days, the weeks before, and see everything. You know, I mean, visualize every cup, every plate, everything that you see, write it down. However you feel best to do that, walk through it in your head and dream it and visualize it and daydream it over and over again until you're confident.
All sound advice. I really do like everything that you've said, because if we really want to call ourselves creatives and artists, we really do have to live in the world that we create for our characters. Like, we have to have that understanding of the importance of knowing. And I love how you say, even if you're not gonna see it, you still need to know. Because I'm thinking on set, people come to you, Tyla, why is that over there? Like, I mean, is that what you want? And then you have to say, because this works for that, you know what I mean? And so, or even being able to know, like, you don't want these unnecessary stressors on set. So if something can be moved and you know it's not going to affect the world or whatever the vibe that you have going on, then you can say, yeah, let's get that out of there and move on to what, you know what I'm saying? I think, like you said, having that vision and knowing gives you so much more confidence on set. I wanted to ask you, like, I love this part of the podcast because I love to give our students practical things that they can take away from to be filmmakers. I mean, it don't have to be so stressful. And I think that at some points in your career as a filmmaker, storyteller, director, writer, these things can be stressful. But I always like to ask like simple things because I want them to know, our listeners listening in who are hopefully taking notes, downloading and sending it to your friends, to know like this can be done even on a lower scale of things. Maybe you ain't ready for your first short film like Tyla has produced. And Tyla has come a long way. I mean, she didn't start out doing her own, you know, her own stuff, but for a person getting started and they do not have content, what would you suggest be the first thing that they do?
I know that people probably say this a lot because I heard it a lot when I started, and I just kind of wanted to jump ahead of time and be like, no, I want to do this, this, and this. But really start. I think there's a quote. It's like, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. Literally, if that it means in your house right now, there is a plant that is very well lit. Take a picture of it. Work on your eye. Whatever your craft is, work on it every single day. So that my advice would really, I wanted to be a cinematographer. I didn't have all the cool lights to try to figure out, how to light things with gels and stuff. I didn't necessarily have that, but I knew that God gave me 24 hours a day to see how light moves. So every single day when I was out, I would go outside specifically at certain times to see at 8 o'clock, the sun is shining here on this tree and the shadow is casting here. And at 6 o'clock, the shadow is here instead because the sun is moving. So that's how I learned how to use light and how to light subjects was really from the sun. So using what you have. It takes passion and working at it and chipping away at it every day. And starting small, like I said, one step at a time. Start with your mom, your cousins, whoever's in your house, inanimate objects. Put on a little show if you want in your house, or make some type of short film with your dog. Like literally, just start from scratch. And once you build those tools and those skills up, just take it a little bit larger each time. Okay, 30 seconds. Now I have a minute. Now I have 2 minutes. Whatever that is, just keep building from that.
It's so funny that you said that. We actually had an intern, a part of Art of Me, who filmed her cat. And she had a very short, it was under a minute, but she had a very short thing about her cat wanting to go outside and dreaming of being an outside cat. And it was only music and captions. And she just had different angles of the cat looking out the window and climbing up on the windowsill. It was pretty cool. But it's something as simple as that, like you're saying, that you can kind of get started with to get you to have that voice as a visual storyteller. So let's say a person has a mini project, so they've completed it, rather it be the 1 minute, 60 seconds, whatever, 30-minute, 20-minute, maybe 30 might be, that's a whole short film right there. But they have the smaller edition of their project. What is the top 5 things that they need to do to get other people to see it, get eyes on it, and get it off the ground?
So some things that I would just recommend, I'm gonna keep going back to passion. Passion will take you places that nothing else can. I'd say networking events, whether that be in person or online, connecting with people. And I'm not talking about necessarily going to Spike Lee's dinner, and all this other stuff, but really connecting with people who are, like Issa Rae said, work and network across and not up. That is like key, is to putting it in the hands of other people who are at the same level, who you can learn something from, who someone else can learn something from, and getting it into their hands. And then as that happens, continue to grow that network that you have. If you already have something, I think also getting feedback from others is always a great thing. people that you trust, not everybody, people that you trust. So getting feedback and, seeing, okay, maybe we could have done this better for next time, or this gave me an idea to shoot this tomorrow, just getting that feedback to keep your sharpness in the field, I think is extremely important. And that comes to the third thing, which is just having a team around you. So whether your mom posted on Facebook, like my mom does with everything, whether she posted on Facebook or, sends it to her friends, use the network that you have. And I know, our parents, they're older sometimes, and they don't necessarily know what we do in the film industry sometimes. I know mine didn't, at least, but they do know somebody. They know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. So even if you don't feel like it's a connection that you need to make, or that might not be life changing, it really can be if you just take that first step to get it into their hands. And then also just optimism and flexibility. I think those are the last two. Just be optimistic, give it time, give things time to get into the right hands. You don't want it to end up in someone's hands quick and it be the wrong person. And it's just a fast way of getting it out. If it's gonna, sometimes things like that take a little bit longer. So be optimistic and don't lose hope, and just keep going. Send 100 emails, send 200 emails, however many emails you need to send. And somebody will see it, appreciate it, and want to carry it forward.
Yeah, all good tips. I'm taking notes in my own head as a creative. So I really enjoyed that. And I kind of want to talk a little bit more about your short film too. I want to hear, so what is it called? What is it about briefly? And I know you can't tell us everything because you still working through some things there, but I'm intrigued. Okay. I want to kind of know what inspired it and what is it about? Just like, let's let this just be a promotion section. I want people to tap into what Tyla Barnes has. Okay. That's what I want.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. So my short film, this is my first short film that I've done. Is called Hair Days. And honestly, this is about my homecoming. And homecoming for a lot of us can be a physical place that we go to. HBCU homecomings are big. I went to HBCU, Hampton University, one of the best homecomings, So homecoming for a lot of people can be returning to a place that you feel comfortable. My homecoming was a little bit different than that, because my homecoming was more of an internal thing. And what I mean by that is, I feel like being at home, or being at a place at home, means being somewhere where you feel like you don't have to compromise. And the first time that I remember that happening for me was when I wore my natural hair out at Hampton's homecoming my sophomore year. I had never done it before then. My hair was always relaxed, braids, weave, something like that. But I had never really known what my natural hair even looked like. Because the world tells us, don't have it out like that. I went to a majority white high school. You couldn't wear your natural hair out. You'd get made fun of, you'd get teased. So I never had really come to the fact of like loving myself enough to try it. So Hair Days is about my homecoming, returning home to myself, in that sense. And it kind of journeys through a young girl's hair journey from childhood to adulthood, and how the stimulus and things that we hear and see when we're younger can transfer to when we're older.
I feel you on the hair thing. I 100% feel you. And you said tease, but these days you can get in trouble, kicked out of school, all of these things. They make black hair this whole big thing, which in turn we make it a big thing. So we don't even understand how to be free ourselves because we so busy, we're very defensive about how other people are treating us. And then when we try to like be rebellious and say like, this is who I am, we get penalized for that. And it's a whole conversation. I ain't gonna give y'all that for free. Y'all gotta Google it. But yeah, it's a whole conversation that can be had about that. I want to know, what was the hardest part to not hard in technicalities, but hard in the storyline? What was like that most emotional part or more difficult part to tell? You don't have to tell us the scene, but if you could talk around it, because I don't want it to be spoiled for anybody.
Absolutely. I think just the beginning and addressing things that I heard when I was a kid, I think that was the hardest part for me, because it's like really have to face it if you just don't think about it. You know, if you've come to the part where you feel like you're comfortable enough, you don't really go back and think and talk about those things. But there's somebody right now who's going through the exact same thing and just needs to hear it from somebody else. So I think that part in the beginning and going back to my childhood, going back to when I was 6 or 7 and the things that I heard and felt and saw about my hair, I think that was the most difficult, but it was also the most freeing and most liberating part about it.
I'm looking forward to this. I love like documentaries and videos that talk about such an intimate part of like what it means to be Black, what it means to be a Black woman. I'm hoping that you examined our issues with having to be put up and done up all the time and not being able to be free. I can't wait to see that. Did you have any other thing that you're working on that you kind of wanted to let us in on or have worked on in the past? Maybe a favorite project?
Favorite projects, I have tons. Right now I'm working on a short commercial. Again, it's I can't say too much, but I'm working on a short commercial, and just working on like brand partnerships is, you know, kind of the lane I'm going on now. So I think it's my favorite part about all of this is really just telling our stories and not having anybody, or not saying anybody, but to be able to tell them without somebody restricting me and telling me, well, you can't say that because of this. But I'm like, you know, well, this is real. This is what we go through. So I think any project that allows me to do that and to tell our stories genuinely and authentically, becomes my favorite automatically.
Yeah, I love what we're doing in the industry, man. We are like moving forward and we are being able to express without being constricted. And it's still such a fight. It's still such a fight, but I love the Black voices that I'm seeing on in the industry, in the film industry, and in the creative industry. And so since Tyla cannot tell us the tea about the current project, she not necessarily her short film Hair Days, but her other current project, you know what that means, y'all. Y'all need to go and follow Tyla Barnes. Okay, so Tyla, drop your social media, and then if you have a website or anything that we can go and click and stalk and bother, let us know.
Absolutely. So you guys could follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at underscore Tyla Monique. That's underscore TYLA MONIQUE. And my website is www.visualsbytyla.com. You can go there for updates, see some past work that I've done. I'll be updating it soon, so there's more to come. And hopefully soon I'll be putting some mentorship and other opportunities up there, for some sets that I'll be on to have other people come and learn with me as I learn myself. So yeah, you can check that out as well.
Oh, I know y'all heard that. Y'all need the opportunity to get on set and get up under somebody who know what they're doing so you can get that experience so you can become a storyteller yourself. Tyla, this has been great. This has been amazing. I feel like you've given us so much that we can kind of take home, and it hasn't been crazy, like technical or anything that we can't grasp. And I think that's the most important part of this visual storytelling portion and just Art of Me as a whole. And our podcast is that we want to let our students know that your story it deserves to be told and you can tell it. And it doesn't have to be complex. And speaking of social media, how about y'all also, after getting done following Tyla, follow Tyla first, follow Tyla, and then hop on over to our Instagram, Art of Me org, and then our Facebook, Art of Me Productions, and then our website, www.artofme.org, and kind of check out our short films that we also have popping on over there. And then we also have other episodes of the podcast that we would love for you to listen in on. Catch a couple of these episodes, get the tea, as they say, get all of the things that you need to kind of shape you and help you and elevate you to tell the stories that need to be told. Again, Tyla, thank you so much for being on this episode. It was a pleasure having you. And everybody else listening in, I will see you on the next episode. What's up, Art of Me fam? Shonda here, and I'm the host of the Power and Community Podcast, and I have a cool message for you. I need you right now to go head over to www.artofme.org, find our contact button, and hit donate now. That is the only way we're going to be able to continue to bring you amazing content, like talking to our filmmakers on podcasts, interviewing different communities in our publication, and then creating animations and short films. We want to continue to tell stories that are important to you.
Head over right now, www.artemy.org, hit contact, and then hit donate now in order to help us fund amazing stories that are important to our communities. See you soon.